Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this special memorial lecture. My name is Derek Mthembu. I'm one of the former classmates of Tsietsi Mashinini. We're looking forward to have this lecture this afternoon, and I'm very honored to be selected as the Master of Ceremonies. My brief and mandate is unambiguous. I've been told that I must direct the affairs, I must introduce the speakers. I'm not on the guest list, so I'll stay to my brief. As Christians, before we start any occasion, we'd like a pastor to come forward and open this lecture with a prayer. Can I please ask Pastor Silo Mukoka to come forward? Thank you, Pastor.
Take your stuff, thank you. So that don't mix it.
All right, thank you.
Go on. Good afternoon. Dumelang. Kali dumedisa. Kali salam rono Jesu Christ. Amen. Before we could open with a prayer, I'll just ask for a few minutes, Mr. Mabena, our former teacher, to come up front and just give us a little bit short message. Mr. Mabena.
Sanbonan Bantu Bagatiko, the students, the visitors, the VIPs, as well as those who are running the school. Mine is a very short item indeed. We were conferring with Reverend Mukoka, and he said I should give a musical item. So I've been instructed to do that. The name of this song is, the musical item actually welcomes all of us and prays for all of us. And the title is, Bless This House, O Lord. I have nobody to accompany me, so you will have to bear with my mistakes as I go on. It takes only 2 paragraphs. Bless this house, O Lord, we pray. Make it safe by night and day. Bless their walls of firm and stout, making safe by night and day. Bless the roof and chimneys tall, let thy face lie over all. Bless this door that it may keep ever open to joy and love. Bless these windows shining bright, letting in God's heavenly light. Bless their hearth blazing there, with smoke ascending like a prey. Bless the people here within, keep them pure and free from sin. Bless us all that we may be fit, O Lord, to dwell with thee. Bless us all that we one day may dwell, O Lord, with thee. Praying after this.
Thank you, Mr. Mbena. Many Roteke, with him in your choir, your boys' choir, you'd have won many cups in musical terms. Before we start with a prayer, I would ask all of us just to stand up for a few minutes. Just for a few seconds, let's bow our heads in remembrance and in memory of the following people that have departed from this world. Alfred Keken Lenzwane, Vosi Debadi Kokwane, and Me Rose Pinto, who recently passed away. We bow our heads for a few minutes. Thank you. Let us pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Where shall our help come from? My help shall come from the Lord who created the heaven and earth. Lord our God, we call upon your name today to send your Holy Spirit to bless this school, its teachers, students, our honored guests, and all the people of South Africa, especially the family of Tsietsi Mashinini, for their selflessness, for giving us their son to lead and shepherd the students to fight for a better, just education. We humbly beg you, merciful God, to pour down your Holy Spirit to heal our bleeding, beautiful country and to restore it to its former glory. Cry, the beloved country. We pray to you, merciful God, that this once beautiful country never again to witness the brutality and slaughter of its children for a just education. We thank you, Lord, for the gift of life. We thank you, Lord, for everything you have given us. We thank you, Lord, for waking up us this morning to witness a new day, to see the sun and to feel the cold breeze. It was not through our choice, but it was through your love and mercy that you wake us up this morning. We ask all this to Christ, our Lord, your Son, who lives and reigns in unity with the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reverend Mukoka. And thank you very much, Mr. Mabena. Mabena was our biology teacher. We were around 17, 18 years old in 1976. He used to crack the whip, but he put us to shame. Now, you know, the way he looks, the way he's been looking after himself, he looks like now younger than some of us. Thank you very much for that item. I cannot see any of my classmates who can even come closer to what you have done. Thank you very much. Before we continue with the program, I would like to call upon Mr. Mzinyana, who's Morris Isaacson High School alumni rep. She wants to read a tribute to Masabata. Mr. Mzinyana, can you please come forward? Thank you. And then immediately after the tribute, maybe the guys who could prepare, we're going to have a recorded national anthem before I call the next speaker. Is Mr. Mzinyana coming through? Thank you. A tribute to Masabata. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to pay tribute to our sister, Masabata, who is one of our alumni. She passed on the 8th of March. A lot of you will remember she was part and parcel of this whenever we are organizing this. I would like to acknowledge the family, her family. May her soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mzinyana. I've also been instructed to read a thank you card from the family. It goes to Sabi, dearest friend and fellow Morris Isaacson High School alumni. No amount of words will ever adequately capture the gratitude we feel in our hearts as a family. Your immense love and honor for Sabi was evident in the way you served us as a family during the difficult time. The support you were able to show in being so present and extended yourself the way you did to ensure that Sabi got the send-off fitting to her was truly humbling. From the words of comfort to the beautiful memorial put together, we pray for God's sufficient grace to abound in each and every one of you. From the very bottom of our hearts, thank you, thank you. May God's face shine towards you. With much love, Manala family. Thank you very much. The next item, can we please sing the national anthem? And while we are singing the national anthem, Omri Makhwale will prepare to come forward. I believe the national anthem is recorded. Over to you, DJ.
Africa,
Thank you very much. Omri Mahal, can you please come forward and read us the House rules? You know, I mean, we used to be Klep Hoyer in 1976, but now we're quite disciplined individuals. We believe in the rule of law. And Omri is going to tell us what are the House rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Program Director. Afternoon, everybody. What I have to give you the instructions about, in case of emergency, we've got the exit doors there, 2 doors and doors at the back, in case of any emergency. We don't hope for any emergency, but just in case, those are the escape doors. And at the corner there, we have a health center, you know, in case of minor diseases, they might help you with a few, maybe painkillers. And the bathrooms, sanitary bathrooms, are this side. You go out with that door, and the gents this side, the ladies this side. So we hope you'll enjoy and relax. And thank you very much for everything.
Thank you very much, Omri. You forgot that you must put your cell phones on silence, you know, so that's not to disrupt the speakers. And they also forgot to say, don't disrupt the speakers when they're still on the podium. Write your questions down. There'll be question and answer session. The next speaker is going to come and welcome the guest. I was told as an MC, I'm not qualified to welcome the guest. There's somebody on the program to welcome the guest. May I have Ms. Tsietsi Mashinini to come up, please? Is one of the students at Morris Isaacson, current students at Morris Isaacson High School, to come and welcome the guest. Please welcome Ms. Tsietsi Mashinini.
Thank you, sir. Greetings to everyone. Thank you to the program director, Dr. Mthembu, for the opportunity. My name is Tsietsi Mashinini, the RCL president of Morris Isaacson. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you to this special event. We are particularly honored to be joined by our distinguished guests, Dr. Magasela, Ms. ANELE MDA, the Mashinini family, the school management, the greater alumni of Morris Isaacson, and the students of Morris Isaacson. We are indeed truly honored to be joined by you and to be graced with your presence, wisdom, and leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather to honor the legacy of a true hero and a champion of freedom, Mr. Tsietsi Mashinini. A student leader during the Soweto uprising in 1976. He courageously fought against the injustices of the evil system of apartheid. Because of his determination and passion, we are liberated today. His bravery in the face of oppression is testament to his unshakable commitment to equality. Mr. Mashinini's impact in my life has been profound. His story has motivated me to pursue a career where I can help shape the minds of future generations, but most importantly, the power that we as Africans hold in our hands, young and old. Today, I am recognized as a black child, a girl child even, that I am human and I do matter. It is because of the sacrifices of our fallen soldiers. We indeed are because they were. As we reflect on Mr. Tsietsi Mashinini's life and legacy, let us be reminded of the power of courage, determination, and our collective action. May his story and his involvement in the fight for liberation continue to inspire us to fight for a more just and equal South Africa and the world at large. Let us also remember that democracy is not a destination, but a journey. It requires our active participation, our voices, and our votes. As we observe our 30th anniversary of democracy, let us remember how far we have come and honor the struggles of those who fought for our freedom. Let us honor Mr. Tsietsi Donald Mashinini's memory by continuing his work, striving for a society that values and respects the dignity of all people. I thank you.
Thank you very much. That was powerful. I know there are VIPs and there are VVIPs. I think it is proper for me at this stage to acknowledge the Mashinini family. Without them, we wouldn't be having this lecture. Without their support, we wouldn't have been having this lecture. And I think it's also proper for me to acknowledge the Morris Isaacson Alumni Committee, together with the Morris Isaacson administrators who have been working tirelessly all these years to put this lecture together, which is an important event in our calendar as we're gonna learn from some of these speakers. I'm glad that the long year didn't have the nerves. For those of you who were hooked on their screen watching the announcement of the election, the chairperson of the IEC, the nerves got better of him. Instead of declaring 2024 elections, he declared 2019 elections. Instead of saying, you are distinguished guest, he said you are extinguished guest. And Matamela really enjoyed that, took a real Mickey out of him, but it all ended up in a good laughter. And thank you very much. I think the next item in the program, it's a music item. I don't know who's going to present that. Can we have a music item, please?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I nearly said good afternoon, students, but I realized I'll be out of order. The group that you see in front of you here this afternoon, it is an ensemble that we put together at 11 o'clock this morning. And then we said, let us do something. As former students of Morris Isaacson, people will be surprised why I'm saying former students. I was also a student at Morris Isaacson before I became a teacher. So we're going to sing two songs for you. And for those of you who know me, you know me as a conductor. So if my voice fails me, you'll excuse me, all right? Right. We're going to sing 2 songs.
Thank you very much. Is the choir master is our former teacher, Ms. Matike. He also put shame to some of us. He's chasing 80 or maybe he's even past 80, but look at him. You know, well done. They say music is good for the soul. It's a pity some of us were not exposed to music. You used to run away from your choirs. I've got a 4-month-old grandson, and then I saw the mother started playing music for him when he was in utero during pregnancy. And then he always listens to music, and they say it's good for the brain, it's good for the development of the brain, it's good for cognitive development. I could have been something better than I am today if my mother played me music when I was in utero. Because I was keen to go to this item, we skipped one of the speakers. I mean, my children cannot believe that Tsietsi Mashinini was a teenager when he changed the world. When they see him speaking on some of the YouTubes, they cannot believe the amount of maturity at that age we had. So I think it's only proper to listen to the youth. It's only proper in this occasion to give them an opportunity. I mean, I would like to welcome to the stage now an Phuthanang Youth Trust representative, Ms. Kanelo Siboka. Can you please come ahead and give us some few words of wisdom? Thank you.
Program Director, Dr. Derek Mthembu, our honorable guests, the Mashinini family, members of the Morris Isaacson alumni, Morris Isaacson High School administration, the learners, all attendees, and viewers on all streaming platforms. I greet you all. My name is Kanelo Seboka. I am an educational psychologist, a Wits University, and the Golden Key International Honor Society alumni. But principally, I am a proud member of Phuthanang Youth Trust. It gives me great pleasure to stand before you in the capacity of a PYT beneficiary. This is a community-based organization which was established in 2004 with the aim to serve the youth of Jabavu through providing skills as well as resources that empower them to be well equipped for both present and future leadership, as well as positive community participation. Phuthanang is a continuously unfolding vision of Mama Ruth Manala as the founder, in partnership with Mr. Lance Manala, Mr. Modise Mutluba, and Mr. Phala Modise. Their commitment to the vision has bred meaningful partnerships across different sectors, being constantly created with the intention of igniting the light that we believe is present in every young person, embodying the spirit of Tsietsi Mashinini. What anchors Phuthanang Youth Trust as an organization is the strong belief in community and holding fast to the roots that shaped us as individuals. Therefore, the significance of plowing back to spaces that molded us is one of the core of our ethos. This is exemplified by our very own trustees who extend their hearts, resources, time, knowledge, and skills into the community of Jabavu. The organization's key focus is on entrepreneurship, skills development, community safety, as well as education. To date, Phuthanang Youth Trust has funded numerous Jabavu students for tertiary studies. It has witnessed the impact of skills development on our young people brought by meaningful collaborations, the driving of coding and robotics for primary as well as high school learners, as well as continuing work around community safety. With the participation of young people being a priority to Phuthanang, we are able to maintain a particular focus on issues that not only we as young people are able to identify with, but we can speak to with much conviction and understanding because they are magnified in our experiences, such as education, mental health, drug use, classism, violence, as well as unemployment. These are the main areas of focus that tie in well with the lecture's theme today as pertinent issues that are at the core of the South African post-apartheid state. I also stand before you in capacity of a niece to the late and incredible Masabata Manala, who was a faithful PYT member as well as the member of the Morris Isaacson alumni. Highlighting the partnership that she too nurtured between PYT and Morris Isaacson alumni is one of the ways we honor her today. Her unwavering belief in meaningful societal contribution will forever stand. Throughout all these years with Phuthanang, she has imparted her spirit of power, purpose, and impact that will continue to drive the organization forward. May she continue resting in eternal glory. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those encouraging words. Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon we are gathered to pay tribute to the contribution made by Tsietsi Mashinini. His contribution turned the politics of South Africa forever. I think it's an apt moment to celebrate and have this lecture. The ANC liberation movement lost the polls, lost its majority during the current elections. But we witnessed yesterday the peaceful re-election of the president. There was no army which took over. We were not addressed by an army general on the national TV. There were no helicopters flying around. There were no business being built. And things are going as normal. That's our democracy. We wouldn't have had that if Tsietsi Mashinini didn't contribute immensely. And we'll always, always remember that, the Mashinini family. Our speakers this afternoon is Ms. ANELE MDA and Dr. WISEMAN MAGASELA. We hope the two speakers will offer solution to our current problems. We are free, but we still have problems. We still got deep problems. I don't want to talk about load shedding. I don't want to talk about potholes. I don't want to talk about water. We still got problems. It's been 48 years since 1976. And I hope our speakers today, they're going to indulge us. They're going to stimulate, they're going to inspire us. Ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker is Ms. ANELE MDA. She'll deliver her first lecture, Problems and Prospect for Post-colonial South Africa. She's an inspirational public speaker, transformation coach, conference facilitator, businesswoman. She's been recognized as one of the young leaders of this generation by former US President Barack Obama. She's also a very fierce woman. We recently witnessed her on national TV, you know, chastising one of the Electoral Commission for unfair treatment towards independent candidates. Let's put our hands together and welcome Ms. ANELE MDA. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Can I use that? Oh, I can stand here. Thank you very much, Dr. Mthembu. Let me first greet the family of Mashinini, the august family of the Mashininis, the people we must all take this moment and appreciate, bow to, and recognize the fact that through you, we once had a leader in our country, and even though he's no more with us, these days like these that we are having today are the days that we must continue to have in order for us to keep the memory of the late giant that your son was to the people of South Africa. I must greet especially also the alumni of the Isaacson Morrison School, the current management, the community of Soweto here, and the students and the leadership and the management of the school that is here. Indeed, my name is ANELE MDA. It is an honor for me to stand here today as part of the people that are here to relive the memory of Tsietsi Mashinini. My talk is really going to be about the problems and the prospects of a post-colonial South Africa. And I do want to depart from my address with a preamble of our Constitution, which I believe is very much important at the backdrop of the recent elections, as you have alluded, Dr. Mthembu. If we are to envision the prospects of a country that South Africa ought to be, post-apartheid and colonial regime, that country, I'm going to be on the side and the people are going to be this side. Oh, for the camera. All right. Sorry, I'm not ignoring you. I'm conveying to the instructions. If we are to envision what South Africa ought to be post-apartheid and post-colonial regime, the preamble of our constitution would be the guiding and overarching spirit that 30 years into democracy, we ought at least to say we're halfway there. Or we ought to say there is a sense of where we are taking the country. That is exactly where Tsietsi Mashinini would have wanted it to be. What does this preamble say, ANELE? It says, we, the people of South Africa, united in our resolve, recognize the injustices of the past, seek to work towards redressing them. And I will pause there. It doesn't end there. It continues. Why am I making this important preamble of the Constitution? I am making it because Tsietsi Mashinini and the 1976 Battalion, they are the leaders, young leaders of the time, who refused, no matter how atrocious the system that was meted against black people at the time, how atrocious it was, they refused to bow to it. They refused to be pushed out, and they refused not to write history, even if it meant writing it by losing their own lives. They lost their lives so that, as we gather here today, we can fully recognize that we were once a nation where even gathering like this was a crime, right? Where even gathering in this way was a crime, especially these faces that you see here. Where a gathering of black people in this format was a crime. Not because black people were committing crime, just to meet, talk amongst themselves, and share the aspirations of how they want to see South Africa going forward as their country. And the Constitution does, in its preamble, capture that spirit, that they fought so that we can recognize the injustices of the past, seek to address them in order for us one day to gather in this way, and it will not be criminal. We sit here because there's a life of Tsietsi Mashinini that we lost. We are gathered here in this way today because there's a sacrifice. Thank you. There's a sacrifice that the 1976 Battalion of the Tsietsi Mashininis of this world did for us. Now, when we talk about the problems of the post-colonial South Africa, what are we talking about? How does that South Africa look like? I'm not going to be philosophical, because we do not need to draw an exercise that is going to be too helicopter a view for a young person who is coming from Soweto to understand who is Tsietsi Mashinini. Remember, these memorial lectures, over and above them having to inspire the next layer of leadership that must come from here, they must also become some form of us reliving the giants that we have lost, but also it must be a way in which we can tap on the leadership that there was, which ought to be what we walk in, the footprints that we follow on. When we are talking about the problems of a post-colonial South Africa, unfortunately, I might live here being an unpopular person, but fortunately, generally, I do not fail to rise up to the occasion because I would rather be loved. I would rather be hated, but having said what needed to be said. A post-colonial South Africa will never, 30 years into a democratic dispensation, see an arrangement of a catastrophic reversal of the gains of democracy, where the ANC can one day wake up and give power to the DA. And I don't care who says what. It's the most unpopular statement, but I'm going to say it in honor of Tsietsi Mashinini. And saying it is not to use the name of Tsietsi Mashinini to attack the ANC. No, I was born in the ANC. But some of the truths that require us to face the problems of a post-colonial South Africa need us to be honest when we face them, require us to focus on the issues as they are, even if at that moment they will make us not to be pleasant towards one another. In the battle, when soldiers are fighting, the technique and the tactic of winning the battle is not always the same. But all the time, they remember what was the instruction of the generals: go and conquer. The 1994 dispensation came because black people said an ANC-led revolution is what we believe in. They said the political vehicle we choose to advance the struggle of black people is the ANC. And they said, ANC, go and conquer on our behalf. What was the ANC going to conquer? The injustices of the past. What were the injustices of the past? Racism, racial exclusion of black people who were not welcomed to associate themselves with sophisticated and developmental spaces because they were preserved for a particular race. Discrimination from opportunities, where by virtue of the color of your skin as a black person, you were not allowed to access education as a means and as a tool to developmentally equip yourself so that you can be able to seize opportunities anywhere they arise. Exclusion, where economically, as a black person, you were not seen as a deserving player and as a right-fitting role player in economic spaces because you are not defined in the race that economy recognizes. Over and above that, social ills, where you were not able to access basic health services by virtue of just being black. You were not deserving of such. Those are amongst what we categorize as injustices of the past. Now, if we are 30 years into our democratic dispensation, we are talking about the triple challenges of inequality, unemployment, and many other. Where are the soldiers that were given the mandate in 1994 to go and conquer the injustices of the past? In which spirit of preserving the legacy, the name, the resilience, the spirit, and the magnitude of the humongous contribution that was made by the likes of Tsietsi Mashinini have we observed in the 30 years of this democratic project? And when we wake up after the elections of 2024, if it could not have been conceivable to us as black people to understand that the extent to which things have gone wrong, we no longer even believe that we can hand over this project to one of us. Did it mean we must package this project and return back an apartheid regime? Have we not suffered enough? Are we prepared to introduce a generation that was born in a democratic dispensation to experience what Tsietsi Mashinini and them went through? Just maybe simply because we could not unite amongst ourselves and recognize that for as long as we are not able to address the challenges that are faced by black people, at no point must we ever even begin to imagine that we will have a savior who it was okay for them to oppress us, but today we are willing to let be the ones who rally and reign supreme over the affairs of this country. Which soldiers are those that we sent that recognize the dead spirit of Tsietsi Mashinini? We can't be dishonorable in speaking about history. We cannot dilute history because we want to emerge correct. We must confront ourselves, even in the most ugliest way, when we need to correct what we are doing in recognizing the people that led this path before us. We have not come here to lead the way. We have been led. We are simply following in the footprints of those who came before us. Ours is to preserve what was laid before we were here. And I'm saying that is my summation of the problems of the post-colonial South Africa. And those problems, they don't have a Messiah who does not emerge from within us as black people in order for them to be resolved. We are our own liberators. And we demonstrated that prior to 1994. The question that we should ask ourselves uncomfortably, what has happened amongst us that we are willing to betray one another? If I don't believe in my own blood, I must go out, look for other people, wherever. I cannot leave the backyard simply because I'm not in the same good relations with Abantu Bakwamda. The community is full of many other people. What has happened amongst us as black people that betrays the spirit of Tsietsi Mashinini? That we are willing to take his own persecutors, elevate them, put them a supreme reign over the affairs of this country. 30 years into the democracy, his blood was shed for. I'm asking us, all of us, to take a deep reflection on what we have just done and how we intend to come back from this madness. No country, listen, the fight for the struggle the fight for democracy has never been a fight for a race that is different from yours and mine. Anindiva. The fight for freedom, the fight for democracy, the fight for equality, recognition as human beings has never been a struggle that was fought for a race that is different from mine and yours. Because there is no race that has suffered not being recognized. There is no race that has suffered not being equal. There is no race that has suffered not being included. There is no race that has suffered not being discriminated, except one race, the world over. It's my race and yours. Now, when you liberate yourself as black people, you liberate yourself. Soweto is full of wounds of apartheid, scars. There are families here, if we can go to, they don't even want to talk about 1976 because it's as fresh as if it was yesterday. Now the question is, if you liberate yourself and not liberate yourself smoothly, you take the road less traveled, you go head to head, toe to toe, thug to thug with the opponent because you're tired. You want this gathering one day to happen, and there will be no police boers that will be coming and surrounding this building with rifles and everything, terrorizing you for existing, not for committing any crime, for existing. If you are able to do that as black people and fully liberate yourself, reclaim your space, restore your dignity on your own, unhelped, what has happened that the liberator becomes the betrayer of the struggle that they won? You know, as leaders, I always say when I speak, leadership is not position for me. Leadership is service. And leadership is having a cognitive ability to rise to the occasion countlessly. Whenever leaders must rise, you are there. And understanding that leadership is painful. I've been an activist in South Africa for more than 28 years. And I can tell you, that is not smooth. Am I still willing to carry on? Yes. Are there accolades and achievements? No. Do I want to be recognized for it? No. Why? What was the recognition that Tsietsi Mashinini got? Nothing. I owe rising to leadership to the blood of Tsietsi Mashinini. That is my contribution, because there's nothing else I could do that he already did. The prospects of a post-colonial South Africa lie in the unity of us as black people, reconnecting and rebuilding our revolutionary consciousness to understand we are a special force of people who will not have a Messiah, who will fight our battles, who will rescue us, and who will come and make us to recognize the strengths that we have. You know, all the time when I used to come to Vilakazi Street to see Umakhuluwini, all the time she used to say to me, Anele, one day you will realize how lonely it is to be a leader, but you will also notice how once the bug of leadership hits you, you can't tap out. Because every time you think about the people, you just feel like if you fail them, you would have failed the most important task. As I close, I want to say to young people, let me start with old people. I want to say to old people, the most fundamental important value of leadership is having the ability and wisdom to understand that one day when you plant a tree, you will not be there to enjoy its shadow. But because you planted it, there's a community that will enjoy that shadow. You planted the seed that the tree has grown. Us, as this generation, is seized with the responsibility of watering this seed that you planted. The next generation of young people will harvest from that seed of the tree that you planted. But I want to warn our elderly leaders by saying, please, do not be yesteryear's heroes who have now become the betrayers of their own greatness. The leadership of young people is unstoppable. You cannot tie young people. Stop feeding young people drugs, alcohol. Stop allowing young people to take no interest in building communities, because you need to be agitated with the next layer of leaders, of young people that must emerge whilst you still exist, so that they can tap from your wisdom. We must build young leaders. We must allow young people to be irritation in this country. Let's not be impatient with young people. Let's not be impatient with young people. A country that is cognizant of its future is seen by the manner it treats its young people. Now, I want to talk to young people as I close. Preparing to become leaders in society starts with patriotism. Starts with patriotism, not vibes. Patriotism. You can't guard a country ngamapiano. You cannot guard a country nge-vibes. You cannot guard a country by material, artificial things of no value. You cannot guard a country by detaching from the principle that define us as black people and copy foreign cultures that you know nothing about. You cannot guard a country by thinking that you can disregard your own leaders and think you will emulate better heroes. As young people, do not create leaders that are your own role models and your own heroes when they are not within where you come from. I always say when I speak, we are built in our homes and our communities, but we are built for the world. You are not built by the world for your community. You are built in your community, in your home, for the world. When the world receives you, they receive an extension of a child who comes from Soweto, who through you, the people see the community that you come from. Cherish these old people. Respect these old people. Love these old people. Honor these old people. Lastly, South Africa has entered the most uncomfortable space ever, where we never thought we will wake up one day and need to fight to keep democracy in our hands from our own. Do not let old people whose loyalty, there's nothing we can do about them. They love their ANC so much. And asafuni nathi bayilahle. But we need them to let go of the decision-making ability. Keep the ANC here, no bantu abadala, with respect. Leave the decision-making ability to us. We've got a country to build. We've got a country to preserve in honor of Tsietsi Mashinini. We've got the spirit of these leaders that we need to use to galvanize the next layer of people that must go and confront the enemy that has built itself from within our own. You cannot tell me you would rather go and give power to the DA because you've got gripe with Malema, gripe with Zuma, gripe with Olomis, you've got gripe with everyone. No, man, there's no such a thing. There is no such a thing. We are going to be prepared to engage aggressively. And I know it's not going to be nice. Because old people are going to say, no, we have seen the ANC. ANC always has the wisdom to come back and do the correct thing. We don't want the ANC to always use us as guinea pigs to experiment whether all the time they will get things right. We need a country where citizens know that the project that they attained in 1994, which that was the democratic power of black people, remains in the hands of black people, nowhere else. If the DA wants to run South Africa, he must go canvass for votes and get them overwhelmingly. He must not be given power through the back door. We've got no business giving the DA power with the votes of black people. I don't care if black people were voting in different corners for whatever reason. ANC is the cause. Who divided us as a black... who divided the black community? Who divided the black community? It's the ANC's lack of delivery. You want us to sugarcoat things? Because you want us to be loyal? Loyal must be reciprocated. For loyalty to mean anything, it must come this side, it goes this side, it must come this side, it goes that side. That's loyalty. We're not going to sit. This is not correct. Unfortunately, bantu abadala, when you see us in the streets in this year, 2024, in the next coming weeks, we're not going to be causing havoc. We're going to be calling for the restoration of the people's democracy back to the people, not the DA. We'll not be fighting with you. We'll be fighting the system that is using a black face. We owe ourselves that much. We are not there in the front line in 1976. We will be here in the front line in 2024. Unfortunately, it will be black against black. It's sad, but it's needed. Angeke futhi sithumele soziyela. Angeke sithumele bantu sizoziyela. It's not going to be nice, but we want to prepare you because we are taking to the streets. We are taking to the streets. Your own freedom that you gave us, we owe you standing up to protect it, even from yourselves, when you are no longer using it the way it ought to have been. I want to thank you for your time, and I want to appreciate the fact that South Africa is a maturing democracy, but it's important that we understand that eternal vigilance is the only prize of freedom. If we as citizens are not alive to how we will have to safeguard this freedom in order for South Africa to move forward, one day we will wake up and will not be able to give account how did we lose it when we had it. Thank you.
I did warn you, she's feisty, and she doesn't hold back her punches. But thank you very much, Ms. ANELE. You've inspired us. Thank you very much. You know, we've got another speaker. Can I have your attention? You've taken me back the times. I was 17 years old. We used to have a Great Hall, you know, it's a misnomer, it was not a Great Hall. It was 2 classes divided by a partition. So we'll open it up, it will be a hall. And Tsietsi Mashinini will be standing in the center, in the desk. It will make us to hum, Senzenina, Amapunu, Aizinja. I won't sing the song, but you'll make us to hum it. And in the background, his voice was cracky because he has been making speeches. He will quote somebody, maybe some of you in the crowd know, and he will say while we're humming Senzenina, that there is no race that possesses the monopoly of beauty, power, force, and intelligence. There is room for all of us in the rendezvous of victory. Thank you very much. You've taken me back the times. There's somebody who's going to give us some poetry. Can you please come forward? Motofil, we're running out of time, you know. We started late, but we're still managing time. Before it becomes dark, we'll be done. Motofela, you know, I mean, I'm a product of apartheid.
The sun shines so bright to bring the true essence of life to all mankind. Light, warmth, and love are all provided to us by the sun. But only a few of us can recognize the beauty that is shown to us by the sunlight. Some can't even feel the warmth that is provided to us by the sun. Why? Is it because they can't feel the heat? Like they are dead heroes, since their bodies are cold, as their souls' temperatures are way below 0 degrees. They cease to live, but continue to exist, cruising without a compass in the ship of life. Their eyes are guided by what they can see only through their naked mind. Minds are paralyzed, high and hypnotized by what their eyes make them see. They can't feel anything, blink, or even think as the life ship sinks deep under the blood sea, drowning in their own blood with no hope of a lifeboat or even self-pride to hold on to. But who am I to tell you what I've seen through these 3 eyes of mine? I'm just a common man trying to make some sense out of this madness. Dumelang kaofela. So ne ke thabetse sister ke mametse a bua gona nong, especially about the situation that's facing black people and young people in particular. I felt inspired and reminded, because sometimes people think I'm crazy when I say, hey, mara apartheid, if there's one thing apartheid e thuseng ka yona, e khona go kopantsha batho, you know? Because I was a kid. I mean, when 76 happened, I was young. I don't remember a lot of it. I just remember commotion and stuff. But one thing I remember when we were growing up, nabare kausane ki June 16. Black power. But now the questions that come to mind for now, what happened to that black unity? I could say the past 30 years, so I'm just here as a common man, as Mutufela, to just reflect on my thoughts of the past, the past 30 years of our democracy. And we seem, the democracy that we fought for is in the hands of young people. And it said what the sister ANELE said earlier on. So we need young people. And I look around, I see very few young people, especially about Morris. If this guy was saying things that he was saying back then, what is it that people of 76 were drinking that we don't know? Maybe what is it that they ate, they drank, that gave them that firepower? So, where we are as black people in this post-colonial, post-apartheid South Africa, it's just confusion. So my next piece speaks to, I look at generation because they are the same generation of my uncles. So these people did something that no one thought of, and but in the spirit of thanking them, it'd be nice to see some more young people continuing with Mushito. So, okay. As a shadow of the black moon continues to cover the earth we dwell on, night and noon are becoming one. They fuse, creating horror tunes of confusion and misfortune. Minds are occupied with thoughts of gloom. There's little expectation for future generations whose future seems to be headed for doom. Hope is slowly dying as she's being crucified. In her place, we find gloomy oceans, filling up oceans of joy, whose streams run from rivers of wisdom, where our ancestors used to drink from. Where did we go wrong is a question that has traveled many centuries in a failed quest to provide answers to past generations. Where are we going is a question that is yet to be answered. Questions are multiplying as the situations get much worse, as many people believe this planet Earth is mankind's unavoidable curse. Some are clinging on to dying hope, waiting for the time when all fears disappear. Who but us must realize that time has come. That time is now. Now is the time to bring back to the youth the spirit of resilience that guided the generation of 76. Now is the time to bring back the truth to the fore so that many people can know how to sell their souls free. Now is the only time that we shall ever have, and the only time that we shall ever need to have in order to instigate change. Now is the time to gather all the forces that used to guide our ancestors to lead us to a greater freedom. Now is that time that we shall ever have, and the only time that we shall ever need to have, because now is a time for change. Ke a leboga.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it because of time. Thank you very much. The second lecture is on citizenship and immigration in the post-colonial South African state, and will be delivered by Dr. WISEMAN Magasela, a graduate from St. Antony's College, University of Oxford in UK. Dr. Magasela is a former senior policy advisor to the government of South Africa and serves as the Deputy Director General of Research and Policy Development. Dr. Magasela is presently the Executive Director of Claremont Analytics, a research and policy development and advisory firm. Please, let's welcome to the podium Dr. Magasela. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I was given a topic to speak on. The topic is about citizenship and migration in post-1994 South Africa, the problems and challenges. Now, what I've come to do today is to share some thoughts with you to contribute to our understanding of this complex issue that we're facing as a country and a society. Issues on citizenship, as well issues on migration into South Africa. The emphasis is on our neighbors, the SADC region countries. Now, I want to state up front categorically that the focus of my talk is on illegal immigration. It is on those persons that come into our country without going through the official ports of entry, whose entry is not recorded in the systems of our country. So that is the focus of my talk. What is also important to emphasize right from the very beginning is the following. When we are looking for solutions, we must make sure that we understand and know the problem in the best way possible so that we can arrive at solutions that are indeed workable. You will see, as I give this talk, that I provide perspectives and views on the issue of illegal immigration into South Africa that is much more comprehensive, that is broad, and assists us into formulating solutions that you can use to solve the challenges that we are presently facing as a country. Ladies and gentlemen, when you speak and think about citizenship, there are three important elements that you need to keep in mind. The first one is political. Citizenship is a political concept because it is about people who belong to a country, to a territory, to a defined society. For instance, we are South Africans and we belong to South Africa. Another important element of citizenship is the legal element. The legal element, it's really about entitlements that you have as a citizen to, for instance, identity documents, a birth certificate, to be allowed to do certain things. The focus today of my talk on citizenship is really about social rights. Social rights are about the goods and services that a citizen enjoys and has the privilege and entitlement to enjoy from the state. Also quite important to understand is that citizenship the world over is granted along two principles. Citizenship is granted on the basis of birth. Your parents are South Africans, you are a South African. One of your parents is a South African, you are a South African. Citizenship can also be granted through territory. You are born in a specific country and that country awards you citizenship. Globally, the shift is away from awarding citizenship through territory, which is you are born in a country, because there are many people that come into a country as visitors. It means that if a person gives birth in that country, that child that is born in that country will indeed become a citizen of that country. Most countries are awarding citizenship by birth. You earn or awarded the citizenship of one of your parents or both of your parents. Now, as we delve into this issue of citizenship, there is a statement that I would like to make, especially here in Soweto, southwestern townships, where we know that we've got sections. Shawelo, we know who is in Shawelo. MDA Ezondi, we know who's in MDA Ezondi, then what we need to understand is really the statement that I'm going to make. The issue of citizenship in South Africa is made complex and challenging by the fact that modern South Africa is an amalgamation. It is a coming together of diverse, different race groups from many parts of the world that immigrated to South Africa at different times in the history of the country. To the Southern African people, the Khoisan, the Pedi, the Zulu, the Sotho, the Xhosa, the Venda, the Tsonga, and other groups were added descendants of the Dutch, of the English, of the French, and many other different groups that came to South Africa, slaves from East Asia and the African continent. The Chinese, as far back as the early 1500s, when so-called Jan van Riebeeck came into the Cape. Indians who came initially as indentured labor. The Japanese, when trade relations with Japan were fostered during apartheid. The Taiwanese, when South Africa was pursuing the so-called industrial decentralization zone, and the Taiwanese came in to establish factories. The Portuguese, when Mozambique fell and Samora Machel took over, were welcome in South Africa. The Rhodesians, when Robert Mugabe took over today's Zimbabwe, came to South Africa and they were welcome to South Africa. That is the complex society that we are, and we cannot at any point in time escape that. Further, what is South Africa? Where does this country come from? Who established it? Who put it together? Under what circumstances? And this is the fact. South Africa as a country and a territory and a nation was formed by foreigners who were in a foreign land. The founding of the Union of South Africa became a republic only in 1961. When the Union of South Africa was founded in 1910 through the Union of South Africa Act of 1909, the founding act of South Africa was passed by the Imperial Parliament in England, and the act was assented to by the King of England. Our country, as we know it today, was established by foreigners who were in a foreign land, and the founding act of South Africa was assented to by a foreign king who was in a foreign country. The reason we're here today commemorating Tsietsi Mashinini is because the youth of 1976 use of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction. Where the hell did that Afrikaans come from? So you need to understand that. I can continue. Okay, do I put it back in here? All right, thank you very much. So the Afrikaans that the youth of 1976 were fighting against is a language that has part of its origins amongst the Dutch. So we then need to understand that when we're talking about citizenship in South Africa, we're really talking about a country that was not built nor established by the African inhabitants of this part of Southern Africa. Now, That is a context and a background that we need to carry forward as we move towards understanding these issues around citizenship and migration, and therefore working towards solutions. These are some of the facts about our country. South Africa is comparatively a better society and country in the SADC region. When you look at our neighbors, whether you're speaking of Swaziland, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, we are a better society in many respects. When you add the fact that in South Africa there are work opportunities that allow our brothers and sisters to come from our neighboring countries into South Africa, even when they come illegally and enter the country, there are work opportunities that are available in South Africa. Those work opportunities are in the mines in South Africa, in factories, in our private households, in restaurants, in construction, in the informal sector, and even in the security industry. That is a very strong pull factor. That is what pulls those who come from our neighboring countries to our country. There are work opportunities in South Africa. They come here, they earn an income, and they send money back home. That is what is spearheading the illegal immigration into South Africa. Further, as we deal with this complex issue of citizenship and immigration, let us remember we are a common people. In Lesotho, there are families that are there whose relatives are in the Free State. In Mpumalanga, there are families who share blood, they are related by blood with people who are in Swaziland. In Botswana, there are Tswana people that are both in Botswana and Bophuthatswana, which is in South Africa. We are a common people that we need to appreciate and understand. When Lesotho, when Botswana and Swaziland were formed, they were protecting themselves against the Boers, and they appealed to the British throne to protect them. That is how Lesotho, Botswana, and Swaziland came about. But these were common people who lived side by side next to each other. We have in South Africa instances such as the following. In 2014, it was reported that when King Mswati called his chiefs, 500 of them came from Mpumalanga, mainly, and went to Swaziland. When we have the issue of the Bakhatla Bakafela, who straddle both Botswana and South Africa. And these are kingdoms that were there long before the establishment of modern-day South Africa. When the Zulu king was installed during his coronation, he had people who said they were his subjects, who came as far as Malawi, who came from Zambia, who came from Malawi, and other neighboring states in the country. So when we speak about citizenship, we need to bear in mind that we are a common people. We have in South Africa people whose origins are in Lesotho. We have in Lesotho people whose origin is South African. We have people in Swaziland whose families are in both countries. So when you want to divide those who are citizens from those who are not citizens, we need to be clear as to exactly what is it that we want to achieve and want to do. Now, The point that I'm making is really the following. We are a common people with a common history. We speak the same languages. We have the same culture, the same heritage, the same ancestry. And in quite a number of instances, we're related by blood. We're the same people. Now, what you then find happening in South Africa is that at the moment as we speak, there is political convergence. Political parties now are aligned that we need to do something about illegal immigration that comes into the country. We saw members of a political party beginning of this year going up north to the Limpopo River, basically physically preventing people from entering South Africa. But nonetheless, even then, in the 6th administration, the governing party, the African National Congress, has taken a stance that no, the issue of illegal immigration into the country needs to be addressed. Even the economic freedom fighters are very clear that no, in as much as they welcome citizens from neighboring countries, they are not promoting and are not supporting illegal immigration into the country, meaning that they want to do something about it. Also, another important point that we do need to highlight as we look at the issue of citizenship and illegal immigration is in South Africa what we can call enabling legislation. We have legislation in South Africa that leads to the kind of situation and challenges that we are beginning to face as a country. Our Constitution makes reference to everyone. Everyone means exactly that. Everyone who's in the country, regardless whether in the country legally or illegally. So, our Bill of Rights applies to everyone, and everyone does indeed include refugees, asylum seekers. Even there are rights, as I will explain to you, that are enjoyed by people who are in the country illegally. So, we also have the international covenants and conventions that we signed as a country. For instance, the Refugee Convention that Minister Motsoaledi of the Department of Home Affairs has issued a white paper that seeks to overhaul that completely. But there are other conventions and covenants that we have signed. That is not the only one. Another challenge and problem that is there as well is the issue of enforcement. Enforcement at the border, there's no enforcement in the whole entire 4,400 odd kilometers of our border in South Africa. However, recently South Africa established the Border Management Authority. It is still in its infancy. We will still see as time goes on whether it is an effective instrument to address the challenges that are there. Also at municipal level, there's just no enforcement of bylaws. So you have people who trade, that is they sell ware, in the same place where they sleep, in the same place where they relieve themselves, in the same place where they bath and wash themselves. So that enforcement of municipal laws is not there. Now, then I want to come to this bit, and I'm really going to ask you to assist me here and come along with me. It is the route, that is the path to a legal status in South Africa, where people are able to move from coming into the country as an asylum seeker. The person becomes a refugee. After some 5 odd years of being in the country, then applies for permanent residence, and they are awarded the status of permanent resident. In terms of rights, there is no difference between a permanent resident and a citizen. So what then I want us to do is this following exercise. I want to mention 4 different groups. Those 4 different groups are the following. It is citizens and permanent residents in one group, refugees in another group, asylum seekers in the other group, and illegal foreigners in another group. In our country, all these 4 groups that I have mentioned enjoy these following rights. They all enjoy the right to equality before the law. If an illegal foreigner is apprehended, that is arrested in South Africa, he is granted, in terms of equality before the law, exactly the same rights as those that are enjoyed by a person who is a citizen. Non-discrimination. You cannot discriminate a person through the legal process and say, no, you are going to be treated like this and you are going to be discriminated against because you are in the country illegally. No. It's equality before the law, it's non-discrimination, it's human dignity. These are core elements of our Bill of Rights, which extends to everyone. And there has been court judgments that have awarded the protection even for illegal foreigners in the country of these particular rights that are there. Birth registration. Even if you're illegal, if you even have a child being an illegal foreigner in South Africa, the birth of your child will be registered, not in the population register, but nonetheless registered by the Department of Home Affairs. All of us in those 4 different categories have access to basic health care. The recent collapse of the building in George, do you think when people were taken by ambulances, they said, you're an illegal foreigner, we're not taking you, no, we're going to take all of this because they are Sarkhan? No, it doesn't operate or work like that. When there's emergency, all the people are actually treated and provided with emergency medical care equally so. Social grants. Qualifying refugees and asylum seekers in South Africa are granted some social rights. And some social grants are also available for illegal immigrants in instances of emergency. When there's been a flood and people have got to be provided, say, for instance, with what are called food parcels, our government is not going to come and say, no, you're in the country illegally, so you're going to starve and die. No, you will still be provided. So there are some provisions of the state that are in the country. Now, and then also the right to employment and the right to establish a business. Illegal foreigners are not allowed to have employment rights, and legally we cannot deny a person access to these rights, as I have already explained them. Now let me then come towards the solutions, possible solutions to this problem that we're having. These solutions are not prescriptive, and then you'll understand that as I describe and explain some of the issues, you'll understand if a solution is possible or not. The first point that we need to make is the following. Migration is important for any country. Migration benefits any country. We're not talking about migration in general. We're being specific to people who come into the country illegally. But migration is a force for good. For instance, if you look at the fact that as a country we are trying to establish particular economic sectors such as artificial intelligence, robotics, we are looking at other areas such as renewable energy. You are going to need skills of foreign nationals that are going to come from other parts of the world and come and assist us as a country. So migration is a force for good. But here our focus is on illegal immigration into the country. So what then happened in South Africa is that the Department of Home Affairs experienced an unprecedented number of foreign nationals who came to South Africa seeking asylum. There was an exponential growth of asylum seekers that came through to South Africa, and the Department of Home Affairs just couldn't handle the numbers, which is why the solution that was then implemented at the time were the special permits. Special permits that were given to Zimbabweans, special permits that were given to people from Lesotho, as well as people from Angola. There was an attempt to diffuse the overwhelming numbers that were in the system by the Department of Home Affairs. Also, what we do need to understand as we look towards solutions, why are nationals of our neighboring countries coming to South Africa? Why are they coming to South Africa? We need to understand that there is very deep chronic poverty, there's destitution, and there's lack of opportunities, especially for youth, in our neighboring countries. And the same thing is happening in South Africa, which is why there is now tension around illegal migration. But we need to understand that there is something that is pushing people who come into South Africa illegally. And what is pushing them is poverty. In their situation, you will do exactly the same thing. That is what we need to understand as well. At times, it's a matter of being able to send 200 Rand back home when you're here in South Africa so that they're able to have something to eat. So we're really talking here about very, very serious levels of extensive poverty in these in some of the countries in the region. Also, what we need to understand as we talk about solutions, apartheid was a security state. And during apartheid, we had what is called a hard border. A hard border is controlled, it is managed, it is monitored by the army, as in the soldiers, by the police, and also by officials. So that is a hard border. The whole entire borderline of a country is under strict monitoring to make sure that they control, and all the time they know who comes in and who comes out. So what we did after 1994, we moved from hard border to open border, porous border, no border. Because if you are able to drive a car from South Africa to a neighboring country, there's no border there. So there are instances in our borderline where basically there is no border. So we then moved from a hard border to, as I say, open border, porous border, as well as, in some instances, no border. Because yes, we do have official ports of entry where you have officials of the Department of Home Affairs in those ports of entry. But people decide, no, we're going to go through this way and that way, especially when they're entering the country illegally. Please, think along with me. If we want to solve the problem of illegal immigration, the hard border, open border, soft border will have to be addressed. We cannot escape that if we really want to control the issue of illegal immigration. Further, today is the 15th. This week, there was a conference in Maputo. It was a conference that was organized by the International Organization for Migration, and they brought in countries from the SADC region, and the discussion was on legal identity, as an identity document, passport, birth certificate, marriage certificate, all the official documents that a person needs. Coming out of that conference, and please listen to this number that I'm going to give you. In Mozambique, my time with the chair is long gone. That is the alarm. In Mozambique, only 34% of adults have an ID card. Only 34%. It is a SADC regional problem. It's not like here in South Africa where you can't do anything without where's the birth certificate for the child, where's your identity. Our children, before they sit for matric, they require that they must have an identity document. They must be issued with an identity document. Further, one other challenge that we have is the following. Please, ladies and gentlemen, For more than 100 years, South Africa has been providing employment to countries in the region. In the mines, there are labor agreements, when you read the history, that go back to the early 1900s. In 1961, the Portuguese government in Lisbon, in Portugal, signed an agreement between South Africa and Mozambique about the supply of mine workers between the two countries. Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Lesotho, these countries, Mozambique, have at different times had these labor agreements. So we've always been historically providers of employment to the region. So we need really to understand that. And this is my last point that I want to make. Official statistics from the SADC Secretariat in Gaborone in Botswana indicate that when you look at the past 10 years, when you look at the GDP of all the countries in the region combined, South Africa accounts for at least 50% of the GDP of the region. 50% of the SADC region's GDP is accounted for by South Africa. It used to be higher. It used to be at 60% plus. Now, this is the point that I want to end our discussion with, or my presentation with, and this is the following. When you take Eswatini's contribution to the SADC regional GDP in the year 2021 was 0.6%. Lesotho, 0.3%. Malawi, 1.3%. Mozambique, 2.1%. Zambia, 2.8%. Zimbabwe, 3.4%. This is 6 countries in our region, contributing less than 10% to the SADC GDP. Therefore, when we speak about citizenship and issues of illegal immigration, these are some of the critical, important points that we need to consider before we say that is going to be a solution, that is not going to be a solution. One of the biggest challenges that the region is facing is the following. Why have SADC countries failed to develop their economies in the post-colonial era? Why is it that these economies are not able to provide employment to their citizens? That includes our own country, by the way. So when you look at the complex issue then of citizenship and the coming into South Africa of different categories of people, for us to arrive at solutions, these are some of the points that we need to consider. We attract a lot of people because we provide them with employment. You can shut the border as long as opportunities are available, as long as we employ them in our private households, as long as opportunities for work exist in the factories, in the mines, in construction, in the informal sector, the challenge of illegal immigration will always persist in this country. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Magasela. That was insightful. You've opened my eyes. I'm not supposed to comment, but there's an elected premier, newly elected premier in Limpopo. Maybe we should have a discussion with her. Among our midst, we've got Ambassador Mji, which we want to recognize. She's got commitment somewhere else. There's a little present for her. Can she, somebody who's responsible for that, come and take over for me, please? The next item is question and answer. I've warned you that you should have written by now your questions. The session is not going to take 30 minutes. It's written here because we're supposed to conclude this event by 5 o'clock. By 5 o'clock. We've extended it by 1 hour. But ladies and gentlemen, please bear with us. We'll have questions and answers. We'll limit some of your questions. Thank you. ANELE MDA is leaving. We are going to give her a gift to acknowledge her presence. We really appreciate and thank her very much for her contribution. Question and answers. I will hand over to my colleague.
Good afternoon, everyone. My task is just to facilitate the Q&A session. Thank you, Program Director, Dr. Mthembu, thank you. As he had just mentioned, Ms. MDA has to leave. She's got another engagement, so she won't be able to field questions. However, through our social media handles, you are more than welcome to send all the questions regarding the topic that she shared with us this afternoon. And I know she'll be gladly engage with you all. So just to note a few protocols that we need to observe during our Q&A so that we can allow everyone to interact with our speaker. We are now left with Dr. WISEMAN Magasela. We've got only half an hour to go through our Q&A. So if I can, appeal with all the audience just to keep your questions brief so that we can give others a chance to engage, and also allow those who are connecting with us through our various platforms to also engage with us. So it will go as such. 2 minutes per question, and then the Honorable Doctor will answer. And then we're going to start on my far left, and then we'll take 2 questions, and then we'll take 2 questions in the middle, and then 2 questions on the far right, my right. And then we'll go on like that. I've got 3 colleagues on the floor with 3 roving mics. Is it 2? Okay, there are 2 roving mics. If you can look on your phone, they will come to you actually. As soon as you just raise your hand so that you are noted, and then your question is taken, and then we'll take it from there. I see someone said they don't know who I am. My name is Tsietsi Mashinini. I know I didn't introduce myself. Tsietsi Mashinini, the alumni of the school, a committee member of the Alumni Tsietsi Mashinini Lecture. Thank you. So, any 2, okay, I see. Ambassador, I wonder, should I just discriminate and not take you? No, that's one there. And the one next to you, Mweketsi, there's two there. The middle, who do we have? Okay, the gentleman here next to Ozipora. And then there's a gentleman wearing a rust jumper there. So there's two. Can you see them? Okay, the far right. There's a student right at the back. Would you kindly stand up so that we can see and note you, please? Can you see them? Okay, so let's go to the questions.
Should I go ahead? Yes. Okay, my name is Mosala Musehomi. What I wanted to do, I wanted to comment. So I don't know if I should go ahead and comment or I should, I'm willing to wait until the questions are over. But let me tell you what I was going to talk about. What I was going to talk about was to link June 16 and the leadership of Tsietsi Mashinini to the very same topic of the, that we're talking about just now. So that's what I was going to do, because that was very, very important as to what happened and how June 16 affected this topic of citizenship, topic of what. So I don't know if I should go ahead or leave the questions. Okay.
Let's take questions first and then maybe comment later. Maybe it might link with one of the responses.
Exactly. Okay, it's okay. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Isaac, and I want to probably start by maybe saying, making an observation. The issues of migration are global. We've seen what is happening in the US, a big chunk of South Americans crossing into Mexico, Texas, into the USA. We've seen what is happening in Europe, in France, in Germany. So the problem is not unique to us as South Africa only. However, there's commonalities in how we, as a SADC country, are interacting with our neighboring countries. So my opinion first is, it doesn't matter whether we build walls as big as high, issues that are embedded in those countries, that are neighboring countries to us, that are causing that migration issue to be systemic as it is. What is the political solution that we could implement as South Africa to mitigate against this influx coming against us and depleting our resources as to how we govern our country, how we run our own country? To a man in the street, it's quite obvious that something is happening in Zimbabwe. But we don't know what it is. But clearly, politically, our leaders know what is going on in Zimbabwe, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. In your opinion, is there a political situation, a political solution, rather, that South Africa could implement or instigate or agitate towards our fellow brothers, that is our leaders in the neighboring countries, to stabilize those countries in order for us to be able then to be able to solve our own internal problems? Because once those countries are stabilized, then our issues become a lot easier to deal with. Thank you.
Let me take your, because that was a comment.
Okay.
I'm going to take your question.
Okay. So we're done with the two questions on the left.
Okay, let's move that side, it's fine.
Oh, the other one was just a comment.
Yes, I'm going to take.
Must we take Ambassador's question, please?
Thank you very much, Dr. Gasela and the audience. I'm afraid mine is an educational comment. I'm very grateful that you have given us the framework about constitution and all that. But I also want to make us aware, because sometimes we are not aware, that, for example, in Zambia, their country there doesn't allow, or rather our country doesn't allow a Zambian person to come here, give birth, and automatically get citizenship. But unfortunately, as Dr. Magasela said, Zambians come here 8 months pregnant. And as the embassy, we've tried everything. They find ways and means and so on and so on. I'm saying this because there is a perception that we ourselves as a country most probably think we have to pay back because we were there, they kept us. No, no, no. The issues that Dr. Magasela has told us about are the biggest issues that our country must really sit down and have a dialogue with the other countries so that we come together to some solution, because all by ourselves we cannot do it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Magasela, are you comfortable answering the two, or shall we ask all questions and then you answer them after? Okay, the next lot, this side, the gentleman, you can pose your question.
Sanibona nonke. Igama lami ngubongano kwaZikode. Noma ngeke ngakwazi ukukhuluma isingisi waya lapho ngizokhuluma khona isingisi mase singixaka, I will express myself in Zulu. My question is directed to Ubaba Magasela ku migration. Whilst it is undeniably true ukuthi many years back the South African apartheid South African government went to many of the SADC countries beyocela ama workers ukuthi bazosebenza ama workers mostly in my mind, not in any other spheres of employment. Babeyocela ama workers kulama SADC countries njengoba sengiqeda ukusho ukuba bayosebenza mostly in my mind. Hayi kwezinye ama sphere employment country. So ngokusho lokho xolo, ngokusho lokho it's so sad khona manje lapha ezweni lethu ukuthi ama illegal immigrants, or rather maybe illegal immigrants or foreigners, whatever the correct concept, the application, njengoba wena babunolwazi okuyiyona. It's so sad ukuthi khona manje ama authentic South African people are dying of hunger as we speak now. Mina ngumuntu othanda ukulalela i-radio umhlobo wenene 12 midnight till 3 a.m. Many of us we have heard or read kuma newspapers ukuthi Eastern Cape, and it's not limited to the Eastern Cape only, but Eastern Cape, there are 4 different young women who killed themselves and their children. Lona woqala nje wasibulala herself, that is the young lady nabantwana bakhe abayi4 sezwakala. Okay. Baba, the question actually not per se a question. Mina it's a comment ukuthi ngizocela ukuba njengoba ama South Africans ephume ku apartheid 30 years ago bephuma ku difficult enzima. It is not okay ukuthi just immediately after apartheid sekunama illegal immigrants aflood the country. Nabantu balapha ekhaya banama vast many problems anawo njengalawa engiqede kwachaza. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you. Can we also note that if we can keep our questions quite brief so that we cover a whole lot of our audience? Thank you. Can we have a mic over here? Reverend Mokoka here. Thank you.
Thank you. To Professor Magasela, I've got only 2 questions. The first question is why there was 8 or 12 Afghanistans that were forced to be allowed to stay permanently in South Africa after America decided to abandon Afghanistan after 20 years of occupation. Why was Mr. Minister Motsoaledi defeated when he tried to object of their permanent stay in South Africa. That's number one. Number two, our country has become a picked up dustbin of various African states. To an extent, some of our suburbs have become a no-go area because it's been now occupied by these foreigners. Some are called Lagos in South Africa. Some even wanted to bring their flag up in a sovereign country. And our government is mum on that. Thank you.
Thank you. We can move, Keke, I think we can move right at the back. There was a young person there who had his hand up or her hand up. Can you ask your question, please?
Before I pose to the question, would I like to introduce myself formally, please? My name is Malibongwe Shabalala. I am a student currently here in Morris Isaacson, matric class of 2024, grade 12, and a very formidable student anyway. So guys, what I would like to pose to the question, in fact, I would like to comment to the question that that person before me asked. So, as you can see in this country, illegal immigrants always come in here every single time for a reason. The reason is they want to work so that they can earn money. And another thing, some other illegal immigrants will open up shops so they can finally kick out their habits of poverty anyway. So, another thing that I also like to pose in is that a lot of people in this country do not understand what is it like to be a citizen of South Africa. Being a citizen of South Africa is not about you having the qualities that you need. And another thing, being a citizen of SA is very different because a lot of people, imagine when you go to a place that is legal, you walk around and then they ask you a question, are you a citizen of South Africa? And then they say they need you to prove yourself why you are a citizen. And then you end up showing off your identity document. For sure you guys understand me, right? And another thing is just that a lot of people usually don't like this they usually call these people foreigners mostly. And then which will lead to this thing called xenophobia being implemented. Because a lot of people see these illegal immigrants, not cool. I'm going straight to the question. I'm finishing now. As I'm about to finish, it's just that a lot of people usually implement this system called xenophobia in which they discriminate these illegal immigrants. Besides, just like Mr. Magasela said, in Eswatini there's 0.6% of GDP being produced in there. And another thing.
Thank you. Can we go to
My
the
pleasure.
next person? Is there a question here? Can we kindly keep our questions brief? Maybe one question per person. Thank you. The last question for this round here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I actually had two questions, but the one was for Mr. MDA, but in her absence, I'm going to pass. For the doctor there, I just want to hear your side or your input, because when it came to solution, there was none that you gave. Illegal immigrants are putting our country in a state that is unspeakable. I mean, you've seen the blowing of Brough Street. every time I travel to town, there is always some hole that is because of illegal miners. Can I ask then, are you telling us that having an identity document, it's as useless because now we are enjoying the same rights as the people that are actually destroying our country? Thank you.
Thank you. We are closing this session now. The 6 questions that we've all asked, I'll allow Dr. Magasela to answer all, and then we'll come and do the next questions. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. These questions that you're posing to me, even your politicians could not find answers for them. So as I provide this, bear that in mind. When a country fails, who do you blame? Leaders who are elected by who? So I fully agree with the first comment that was made that I think I like the way he put it, where he was saying that there are intrinsic issues that are embedded in these countries which leads to this kind of challenge. Mozambique attained its independence in 1975. Zimbabwe, it was 1981. I do not recall the other countries. There seems to be a problem that is there, that the leadership in these countries, when they come in, they do not live up to, and I'm going to be specific, to countries where there was even wars. In Mozambique, in Zimbabwe, arms were taken up. But what you then find happening is that those who come and occupy political office do not provide the opportunities for these countries to grow. Part of the problem is that our countries continue to rely on mineral wealth, on mineral resources. I was with a lady who was from Botswana who called our economies of luck. We're just lucky that there are diamonds here. We're just lucky that there's coal here. We're just lucky that there's gold here. We're just lucky that there's platinum here. This issue and challenge of economic development, it's a very difficult one to come and say, this is the people that we should then go around and blame. We are here with the generation of 1976, which is, I think, 2 years away from 50 years. And this year is 30 years of democracy. So we are seeing exactly the same failures in South Africa, where it remains an economy that is in the control of white people and only white people. What we have failed to do in this country, when you read our constitution, there's a phrase in our constitution that speaks about to free the potential of each person. Our potential as black people has not been realized in this country because we are still earning degrees to be employed. We're still earning skills to be employed by somebody else. So there is a problem, and this problem cuts across the entire region as to why our politicians fail to lead us to prosperity. And it's not an easy question where you can say, oh, the answer is this. It has not happened in Mozambique. It has not happened in Zimbabwe. It has not happened in Malawi. It has not happened in Zambia. It's not happening in South Africa. In Lesotho, more than 50% of Basotho rely on employment in South Africa. There are these complexities and challenges. The person who is saying what is the political solution is correct. Because we have an anomaly. We have what in psychology they call an aberration. There's an abnormal situation in the SADC region, and we've seen it here in South Africa. Where have you ever seen people claiming that they have political power when they don't have economic power? What is that political power then used for? Do we even have the political power as black people who were oppressed that we claim to have? So it is really a complex situation where we can't just provide easy answers. Ambassador has pointed out to the challenge and problem that she has witnessed with Zambian people who are coming into South Africa. There are people who come from countries in the region that come to South Africa and say, there's everything here. You know, they say there is everything here. And to an extent that is true. We have health care, we have education, we have a state that provides us with housing, with water, with free electricity, So there are things, we have, in other words, a state that is powerful in that regard. In the countries that are in the region, I used to tell people this because one has traveled the region quite a bit. In Mozambique, if you don't wake up and do something, you are not going to eat. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. If you don't wake up and do something, you are not going to eat. So there are those kinds of differences that are there. And all the time, when you speak to people who are in the medical profession, what Dr. Ramotubi mentioned, what even people that we know who work in public sector hospitals, they say that there was recently a discussion on the NHI, and there was a nurse who was interviewed on one of the television channels, and it was a he said that you find that in a ward, you count people that are in the ward, there are 27 people, but 13 of them are foreign nationals. This person, every time you speak to people who are in the health profession, that is always the point that they are always making. And you know, Dr. Ramotupi, she got into serious problems when she raised that kind of problem and issue. So there are these challenges that are there, and how do you solve them? You cannot solve them unless our neighboring countries also build themselves and provide employment to their people. It's not a solution that's going to come next year. It's not a solution that's going to come in the next 2 years. It will indeed be a long-term solution. A point was made about the labor agreements that are referred to, and the point was made that the people that came from the neighboring countries were there to work in the mines predominantly. That is true, but at the same time, there were also people who came, it's still happening even today, they come and work in the farms. For instance, Minister Motsoaledi, in this white paper that she has issued, I think it's called Agri-South Africa. They've come forward and said, no, we will work with you to formalize and make official the arrangements that are there between South Africa and people who come from neighboring countries to come and work in the mines. In the farms and plantations. So it still kind of continues in that way. It's a huge puzzle that foreign nationals come to South Africa and they make money. When in South Africa there are many people that are unemployed. So there are many explanations that are given to that. People say South Africans are choosy, there are jobs South Africans they don't want to do, a whole range. But it is a fact that foreign nationals do come into South Africa and find opportunities to make money or at least to make enough money to remain in South Africa, continuing with whatever it is that they are doing. And there's just something that I want to clarify to all of us here, which is about crime. South Africa is a society with very, very high levels of crime. There are foreign nationals that add to that, but they're not the source of our concerning high levels of crime. The challenge that you find everywhere in the world is the following. And listen along with me to this that I'm going to say. In any country in the world that you go to, if citizens are killed, they prefer to be killed by their own. If citizens are killed at all, they prefer to be killed by their own. When a foreign national kills a citizen, it gets blown out of proportion. It becomes exaggerated because all societies have this idea that if I'm killed criminally, let that criminal be a person of my own nationality. So therefore, crime that is committed by foreign nationals will always be exaggerated in all societies. There is a point that was made by Afghanistanis where Minister Arun Musoledi had to intervene. May I say the following to us? There is work that I've done with the Department of Home Affairs over the years. Some of the challenges and problems that are there is the following. There are groups of people who organize themselves. They fly from Pakistan, they fly to Dubai. And from Dubai, they fly to Mozambique. And from Mozambique, they find ways to enter South Africa. You will find that when an analysis is done, each one of these people paid even close to 75,000 rand for the whole entire trip from Pakistan to South Africa, but obviously entering South Africa illegally. There are networks, there are crime syndicates that have come and occupied the space that is there. But there's a point that I'm going to mention, which in my view is going to resonate and resonate very strongly with the generation of 1976. And the point is the following. Before the ANC came back from exile, black communities were organized. Before the African National Congress came back from exile, black communities were organized. We had youth clubs, we had community organizations, we had political awareness. Each one of us knew what was happening in each and every street. We knew that so-and-so's child misbehaves sometimes. What then happened is the following. When the ANC took power, there was demobilization because we trusted the African National Congress. Do you get what I'm trying to say in terms of analysis? Unless we go back to that mobilization where we work, if possible, with councillors that are in our local municipalities, that political mobilization was actually very, very important. If you talk about freedom and liberation does not end when Nelson Mandela is inaugurated as the president. The struggle after that is even bigger because now it's about identifying opportunities. It's about contributing and making sure that our schools, our clinics, our infrastructure is well maintained at the local level. Therefore, if we disengage as communities, what you are going to have are the problems that we are currently experiencing in our local communities. Please, there's something we need to understand. When South Africa opened up in 1994, all different types and kinds of characters came into our shores. It was not people who only came with good intentions. It was also people who were coming with ill intentions, side by side with families who were from Lesotho, from Zimbabwe, and from different parts of the region. They were our neighbors. We grew up with them as our friends. But today, what is happening is that you are finding zones and enclaves and communities of foreign nationals where you know these are Zimbabweans who are here, or it's Nigerians who dominate here, or it's Ethiopians that are here. There is lack of integration, which heightens the challenges and problems that South Africa is facing when it comes to the issue of migration into the country. Before, that was not the case. You could not go to an area and place and then say, oh, it's only Zimbabweans that are here. We never did that, particularly in urban areas. You must remember, I mean, we are here in Soweto. Soweto, as you know, it's a melting point of all different nationalities that you find amongst black South Africans. But what is disturbing is really that we are seeing these enclaves, these communities that are communities of only foreign nationals. So the problem of no-go areas, where you can't go into an area in your own country and the people that you fear are not your own children, are not your own sisters and brothers, but it's people from another country. There's another point that I think is very important to mention today. For instance, the challenge always, whenever the Department of Home Affairs is trying to challenge all these instances where people come into the country illegally, there are NGOs in South Africa, human rights organizations, that always take the Department of Home Affairs to court. But we must remember that those NGOs, those human rights organizations, are using the laws of South Africa. We need to understand that. They do not invent the laws. They are not the ones who come and say, South Africa, treat these people in this way. They only challenge government and go to court using South Africa's own legal provisions. And the last point, really, it's really just about putting our country first, and the problem of having people who are in the country to come and destroy our country. We need to talk enforcement at the local level. Today we have this situation where people say, oh, the police, the police, the police, the police. There's really nothing the police can do without communities. Even when it comes to the issue of different kinds and forms of crime, unless the eyes and ears of the police are the people that are on the ground, the problems will always persist. I'm really, really sorry in the sense that the solutions to some of these problems point to one important point, and that point is community-level mobilization in South Africa. We need to tap into that spirit that brought us Tsietsi Mashinini. We need to tap into that spirit that made us to liberate our country during the days of the mass democratic movement. We have lost that. We need to find ways of regaining it. This is an important part of it. This is a very important element of it. We need that sense of community spirit as well as active citizens. We need to challenge our councillors at the local level. We need to challenge those who pass laws that govern us. I hope I've assisted in some of the questions that you posed. Thank you for now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Magasela. That was very extensive. We really appreciated that. You know, because of constraints of time, we're not going to take any further questions. But there is a social media platform, Facebook, Instagram. You know, you can send your questions there, both to Ms. ANELE MDA and Dr. Magasela. But we've come to the climax of the occasion. the head of Mashinini family, the brother of our own Tsietsi, Mr. D. Mashinini, can you please come forward to present an award to our guest speaker? As I said, Tsietsi was not old when it changed the world. We thought maybe it would be up and more appropriate to ask one of the students, the SGB chairman, Mr. Happy Mahlaba, to come and give the vote of thanks. Can we have Happy Mahlaba, please?
Good evening. It's now evening, most. I say afternoon. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to speak on behalf of the acting principal. I'm not the principal, but kitumela or principal Buanzwanela. Vote of thanks. Vote of thanks. What do we say? I just want to say thank you, the organizers, Morris Isaacson, Luminite, Aholo Kerata Choir, Albertung, Choir A Impinets Hanteman. What's about Caricabellion? I took Walang happy. But what's for Kitala Hakis Autohala Leki Bua? I need, but the organizers, I need you more than this, because I need crane. I've got globes, but I can't reach there. Now I need sponsors, but crane, it's been 2 years now without lights. Rabara is a these are not lights, Hante. I've got loops, but I can't reach anyhow, thank you very much. But more than now. I need to see you, Rabonor. How do we support this main hall? This is the main hall. But also we took off about hall, but now it's not complete. I fell in neither way. Now to Kenyel so homona crane because step ladder has a feet molehodimu. I would like to say thank you, Dr. Magasela, program director Ngaholeva Jwamara, Gwenum Filen Tafulaina, thank you very much. Thank you. Banabaka Batsorketala, they've been here since this morning. Thank you.
We've come to the end of the occasion. Maybe I can wish those who will be driving, drive safely, and also those who will be walking to be careful. It's becoming dark, and walk safely home. See you next day. Thank you. Bye-bye.